So there they are, sitting in the House of Lords, the bishops. I'm just relating this fact that there are 26 of them in the House of Lords as a matter of right. They don't have to get elected or anything like that. But according to a survey, about 53% of British people now have no religious affiliation whatever, and the gap on that is increasing as younger people have much less affiliation than older people. And just 6% of British adults, according to a ComRes survey of 2017, are practicing Christians. So there's no doubt about it that the established religions and established Christian religion has been having a great difficulty in terms of holding on to its membership, and it's really it's rather than antagonism to the church. I think it's just general indifference to it.
Well, you look at that lot and you can understand why, can't you, really?
I don't think any of the lords have come off that well, actually.
No.
So
None of them.
53% of people want to get rid of the 26 guaranteed seats held by the Church of England bishops. Just 16% said they should keep it, and 31% didn't know. That was YouGov 2022. And they make up what are called the Lords Spiritual in Parliament. And they've sat at as Lords Spiritual since the 14th century. As I said, Iran is the only other legislature in the world, other than the UK, which gives unelected clerics automatic representation. It's just, I really could go on a rant about the House of Lords, but I just thought I'd tackle this particular aspect to it. Well, it was a Social Democrat bill, a bill to provide for C of E bishops to be no longer entitled to membership of the House of Lords. It was introduced in January 2020, never got past the first reading. Looking back in time, let's move you over to here. In the abolition of the House of Lords in 1649, this is Cromwell, of course. The phrase they used for it was, "The House of Lords is useless and dangerous to the people of England." That was 1649.
Still there.
Yeah, well, no, it was abolished, and then you have the beginning of what was known as the Rump Parliament. But then he was executed also later in 1649. King Charles I. We're now on to King Charles III. I'll come on to King Charles II, actually, incidentally. He was tried on 30th of January 1649 and executed. Then you've got the Commonwealth of England under the watchful eye of Oliver Cromwell. It only then met again in 1660, following the restoration of the monarchy. So there was a time when they managed to do without a House of Lords. So a little sidestep to a bit of history. 1653, Cromwell dissolves the Rump Parliament because it wasn't getting anything done, and replaced by another one called the Bare Bones Parliament of his protectorate, 1653 to 1659. When he died and then his son took over, it didn't really work, and Charles II reclaimed his throne. That's a picture of Cromwell dissolving the Rump Parliament. There is talk of reducing bishops in the House of Lords. There was an internal Church of England paper about that. They don't want to get rid of them, they just want to reduce the number. Though if you're reducing it, I don't see why you don't just get rid of them, why they should have this entitlement. They suggested that they could have fewer than that, but still be automatically appointed. An obvious radical change, which would eliminate those tensions and help it dedicate its resources to its own parishioners, would be to disentangle church from state, and this should start with the complete withdrawal of bishops appointed to our legislature. That's the secular society, not surprisingly. Now, the head on the death of Queen Elizabeth, King Charles III immediately became the church's supreme governor and defender of the faith. Now, which faith is that? It's not all faiths, though Charles does say he likes to represent all faiths, but that's just on their coattails, because effectively, for the avoidance of doubt, that faith is the one true Protestant faith. It's not Catholics. In fact, he couldn't be a Catholic and be king still.
I thought that hasn't that been repealed, Bernard?
No, it hasn't. No, and but he is allowed to marry a Catholic since 2020. He's been allowed to marry a Catholic, though Camilla isn't a Catholic, but he could have married a Catholic, still being kept. So, the view of the secular side is the head of state should have no constitutional ties with religion, especially given that there are multiple religions and an awful lot of people have got no religion. So. Have you all booked your places for the coronation?
We're actually on holiday in Scotland on that day. So.
Well, you'll have to get down there early to get near the crash barriers to wave your flag as they go past. It's the 6th of May, and there's going to be another bank holiday, isn't there, because of it? It'll be even though they're going to try and shorten it a bit. I think it took 3 hours last time. It'll still be deeply religious. He'll be anointed with holy oil, blessed and consecrated by the Archbishop of Canterbury, and Holy Communion will be celebrated. Well, not that much inclusiveness there, really, is there, for Catholics, let alone Muslims or others. So why you should have this entanglement with religion, I don't know. I really like this one. That's Charles II.
It looks like somebody's gone mad in the Royal Exchange costume department.
Well said. I love the wig.
In one of the abbeys, I think, somewhere. Can't remember where it is now. I just thought it was in. But anyway, the doctrine that King Charles will swear an oath to will swear an oath which also asserts that gay sex is a sin and that same-sex marriage is illegitimate. That was reaffirmed in August 2022 by Justice Welby.
Disgrace.
Gone down well.
Well, it's just, why does it not cause a fuss? Why is nobody bothered about it? Or seemingly.
Well, I think a lot of clergy are bothered about it because a lot of people ignore it. I mean, that was partly why Richard Coles resigned his appointment.
Yeah.
And I think the problem is they're appeasing the fundamentalists in countries like, on the continent of Africa.
Yeah. But the thing is that they're not allowed officially to bless same-sex civil marriages. Gay clergy are permitted to be in relationships so long as they remain celibate. Take that for, it's a bit like that American Army one, wasn't it? Don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah.
Remember it, the same one.
It's just hypocritical, isn't it?
Isn't it? Yeah, definitely. Now, I wanted to show you this, which I think is quite interesting, which is about the fact that a quarter of all state-funded primary schools and hundreds of secondary schools are run by the C of E, which is officially allowed to ignore human rights on this and refuse people entry purely by the fact that their themselves or their partner doesn't actually go to church. Yeah.
Schools are for teaching, not preaching. But a third of the schools we all pay for are faith schools. Something doesn't add up. Children should be able to develop their own beliefs, free from indoctrination. Faith schools seek to instill religious beliefs. Surely schools should teach pupils about religion, not how to be religious. Britain is becoming increasingly diverse, but faith schools segregate our children. When children from different backgrounds are educated together, they learn to get along together. Isn't it time we stop dividing our children by their parents' religion? Faith schools have special exemptions from equality law. Many can discriminate against children whose families don't belong to the religion of the school. This means your child can be turned away from your local school because you're not religious or follow a different faith. Despite public opposition, faith schools are increasing in number and variety. The expansion of faith schools is the wrong response to our growing religious diversity. Faith schools don't just divide children by religion. They can also lead to ethnic segregation. And many faith schools admit disproportionately fewer children from poorer families. Faith schools are a disaster for social cohesion. An inclusive education system today is our best chance of building an inclusive society tomorrow. So why not join us in saying, no more faith schools?
Which I think is fairly persuasive, actually. I mean, I'd never come across that particular issue before, because you just accept it. The nearest school here is a faith school.
So is ours.
Yeah, and it goes on till sixth form colleges. I mean, one of those popular ones, there are basically 3 of them within our catchment area. One's Loretto, which is Catholic. I remember going there with the boys when they were thinking of what they were going to do in sixth form, because their school didn't have a sixth form. And there were all Catholic posters all over the place. And the other one was, I think it was Zavarian, and that's a Catholic one as well. There was only Parswood that wasn't. You know, so
Sam goes to Zavarian,
pardon?
and the religious aspect is virtually nil.
Well, they get that, but then why should it be religious? I mean, why should it be part of a religion?
But France doesn't have any faith schools. They won't allow any.
Oh, well, you can have private ones that are that, but not the public ones.
No.
Yeah. I think it's something that's just there and we seem to accept. And in fact, they're growing in number rather than reducing. So I don't think it's right. Just a little bit about Justin Welby, you know, the current Archbishop of Canterbury. His official title in documents is the Most Reverend Justin Portal Welsby, by divine providence, Lord Archbishop of Canterbury, Primate of all England and Metropolitan. Not bad to have that as your...
It's a lot to write, isn't it?
He went to Eton College and Trinity College, Cambridge, so he had a normal average background. And at the age of 19, he began speaking in tongues.
Oh dear.
I witnessed that a few times in America, and the theatricality underlines everything.
Maybe, well,
it's big in the Pentecostal church, which is why they won't say anything about gay marriage, etc., because it's the biggest growing wing of the Anglican Church at the moment.
He said, this is what he says about his own. In my own prayer life, this is Justin Welby, and as part of my daily discipline, I pray in tongues every day. This is the guy who's in charge of the Church of England, who'll be presiding over the coronation, and it is continually asked to comment on things by the media. But anyway.
Yeah, it's Pentecost. It was when the disciples were sent out across the world and they were given the languages of the countries that they were traveling to.
Gosh.
Can I just mention about Welby, because I think he's quite an interesting character and he is an important character. He worked for 11 years in the oil industry, 5 of them for the French oil company Alpha Aquitaine. In 1984, became treasurer of the oil exploration group Enterprise Oil PLC in London, mainly concerned with West African North Sea oil projects. So he had a long period of finance before he became a he had a very, very fast rise within the Church of England. He's very, very closely associated with the charismatic evangelical wing of the Church of England, associated with the Holy Trinity Brompton. In August 2019, Welby called for EU Remainers to stop whinging and accept the results of the 2016 Brexit referendum. He was involved in something called the Iwern Camps with John Smythe, who was a prominent evangelical and lawyer who acted regularly for Mary Whitehouse, if you remember her.
Yes.
from 1978 to 81, when Welby was very much part of this Iwern Camps group, Smythe carried out a series of brutal beatings on boys and undergraduates who were left with scars on their backs.
Oh, gosh.
Some labelled the Archbishop an observer of the time, because he managed, like a lot of these things, he was kept quiet for a long time before it was eventually unmasked and he was dealt with. He was labelled the Archbishop as an observer, a term denoting a person who knew about abuse but who did not report appropriately. So it's got a checkered history.
Yeah,
that's the guy who's in charge of all this. So I thought it was an interesting topic, just something you don't really normally think about, because why would you think about it? What's that got to do with anybody? There you go.